Hello, everyone. This is Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to the This Week in Bitcoin show. Today is June the 28th, 2019. Strong hand. Be a unique beast. Value your wealth in Bitcoin like these guys do. I mean, these are all hardcore Bitcoin guys I have on today. Halving hype. Oh, yeah, we got to talk about the halving a little bit too today, guys. I forgot to mention that. Unconfiscatable. One Bitcoin equals one Bitcoin. Offended by selling. All right. So we got three great guests here. You all know BTC Benny. You've seen him on the show many times. You've seen him on his show. All these guys are linked to below, by the way. So pound that like button. But Steve Barbour is a dude that I have talked about many times. Many times. He is the dude that does the mining with the natural gas waste from oil. You've all heard about him. He's been in major publications. He's on the border of Alberta and Saskatchewan. Oh, very excited. And of course, BTC Benny is also in Alberta. So we got Albertans all over the place today, including in the chat. And I love Alberta. My favorite province. But then we have the legend here. He's so legendary, we don't even know what he really looks like. Gigi is here from Germany. He's the dude that, I mean, what's 21 lessons. You guys have read that probably. I've also talked about him on this show before. And so he's here. And so they're going to tell us, they're going to give us their thoughts on what's happened this week in Bitcoin. And BTC Benny just dropped off. Oh my, how did that happen? Wow, he got so excited that he pounded the like button and he dropped off. But don't worry, he will return. Well, I was going to start with a question for him. This is what live TV is all about. BTC Benny, can you hear me there?
I'm here. I'm sorry.
What are you on dial-up, Ben?
Yeah, I know. What the hell?
All right. So BTC Benny, you're going to tell us, you were in San Francisco this week, so you'll tell us all about that event in a second.
Yeah.
But, this was a wild week. Something about the price. I'm not into the price. I know that one Bitcoin equals one Bitcoin, but the price was moving up so fast that just like the old days, Coinbase shut down suddenly. What do you think about that, man? What do you think about this week?
I mean, it was so everybody there at the conference in San Francisco, when it went down, they were like, well, of course it did. Of course it did. It's very reminiscent of 2017. And it's nice to see that nothing has changed. Still no batch transactions, still no ability to keep up with just regular Bitcoin demand. So I don't know. It was pretty par for the course, I guess. But I don't know. Coinbase is down. Bitcoin never goes down.
I was very excited when I heard this. In fact, I think it is a bull sign there.
Yeah.
So much people wanted to buy Bitcoin that it broke Coinbase again. So
just delete Coinbase already, guys.
Okay.
Yeah, I second that. Delete Coinbase.
Yeah, I made a video on that. You can watch it if you need the reasons.
All right, Steve. So were you excited when you heard about Coinbase going down? What are your thoughts?
I saw it on the Twitter feed, and I just think I had a little laugh and just moved on. I don't use Coinbase, but it's sort of sad for one of the biggest, it might be the biggest platform for trading Bitcoin or for the on-ramp for Bitcoin, and it can't handle like a micro pump. It's pretty sad.
I always look at the positive side of things, but still Coinbase is one of the biggest on-ramps for American citizens, at least. And it doesn't look great to the outside world when we're trying to be major league here and something like that happens. Gigi, did you have thoughts on that over in wherever you may be?
Yeah, I don't use Coinbase either, so I had the same reaction. I chuckled at it, but I just want to point out that 3x in a couple of weeks is a micro bump in Bitcoin. That's kind of hilarious.
It is a micro bubble. Just look at the chart. It's just
yeah, it's true. But
still, now of course, one of the reasons the Bitcoin price is probably going up is because people are realizing that it's a scarce financial product. Okay, There's not a lot of it out there. There's not going to be a lot of it produced. Now, Gigi is very well known for his 21, what's it called? 21 lessons, his 21 lessons. And of course, one of them, something that you guys got to read it. It is linked to below. He elaborates on what Bitcoin has taught him. And one of the things it's taught him is about the hidden tax of inflation. And to me, there's still a lot of people out there, because there's still a lot of people getting into altcoins and complaining there's not enough Bitcoin for them, that don't understand inflation, that don't understand scarcity. So Gigi, drop some scarcity knowledge for us. Just drop some 21 lesson knowledge for us. Anything you want to say?
Yeah, the second lesson already is the scarcity of scarcity. And I quote Saifedean there, where he says, the only two things that are really scarce are time and Bitcoin. And I think the world is slowly waking up to that. And it's funny how a lot of people speculate what this price pump, like what is behind this price pump, because it seems that it's not retail in any way, like in 2017. Like if you look at, for example, the Google Trends and some other indicators, they are really low. So it seems like there are maybe some institutional investors and some other people piling onto it. But it doesn't seem, to me at least, that it's normal people rushing into Bitcoin and buying like crazy. I think it will happen again, but we're not there yet. Not this cycle.
I have had some friends who are, they're not into Bitcoin yet, reach out and ask me about it recently. I don't know if you guys have had that, but I think like the average Joe is still, keeping an eye on it. So there's probably some of that going on.
Yeah, a little bit, I think, but I don't think it compares to the 2017 run.
My sister hasn't called me yet asking me to buy for her, so we're not yet there.
My sister actually, at the very bottom in like December, when she was home for Christmas, I was talking to her about it, and she's like, yeah, like I'll put in $500. And I called her up like a few days ago. I was like, yo, you've got like $1,200, $1,300 now. She's like, what? Are you serious?
Nice.
Well, FOMO has not reached 2017 proportions yet, but it's coming out a little bit. There's a little bit and again, there had to be some sort of FOMO to break Coinbase. I should hope so, at least.
Or were they just manipulating things like they seem to do in the past?
We also have to remember that there's a whole host of people that probably FOMO'd in at some point during late 2017 that thought it was going away and kind of partially disavowed it, but now that they see it coming back, they're not, like we were talking about Google Trends. Those people no longer have to search how to buy Bitcoin, right? They already know where they were getting it before, so maybe they're just starting to kind of scale back in because they realize that it's not going away.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. That's a good theory. I like that. Pound that like button, everybody. All right, and remember, check out the links below. All these guys are linked to below. Now, I was reading this tweet by this awesome dude. He said, predictability is the reason why Bitcoin is the greatest money in human history. Supply never changes. Quality, no dilution, no counterfeit. Settlement, 10-minute intervals, nonstop, forever acquisition, only through hard work. That was I butchered it there, but Steve, that was yours actually. And actually,
who was that great? Yeah.
It sounds a lot like Gigi's stuff actually. No dilution, no counterfeit, 10-minute intervals for settlement. It's some basic facts right there about Bitcoin. And it's something that I think these gold bugs out there don't really get. So I wanted to use that as a transition, actually. Gigi, what's up with the gold bugs these days?
Yeah, there was a great tweet by Peter Schiff. He seems to, can only talk about Bitcoin and nothing else on Twitter currently. And there were some great responses to that. Because there are companies already eyeing on asteroids to do some really awesome asteroid mining to get gold and other rare earth metals back to Earth. And people were giving Peter Schiff a hard time, because what happens if the gold supply suddenly doubles on Earth, and what will happen to the price of gold? And everyone's like, yeah, you can't do asteroid mining with Bitcoin. You will not find additional Satoshis on some asteroid.
Well, I know what Peter Schiff would say in reply to that. It's like, well, all these altcoins, they can produce as many altcoins as they want, so that dilutes the Bitcoin. That's what he will say, but he does not.
Yeah, we can also create more alloys and use other metals. So yeah,
the problem,
the same argument.
I just find the problem with gold. Like I was sort of wanting to get into gold before I learned about Bitcoin in like 2016. But like now that I've learned more about both, I think the problem with gold is that it's all held by like central banks and the state, like governments.
Yeah, running a gold full node is really expensive.
Yeah. And no, like there's like, I don't know about you guys, maybe you guys have a little bit of gold jewelry or something, but I have like one little gold coin. But I mean, like we're not using it in trade at all, like most of us, like most people. So I just see like Peter Schiff and all the gold bugs, they're just holding monster bags. Like for the economy, for the gold economy to get underway, it's got to get distributed to the people, right? And nobody's in demand for it. Like it's got to dump, I think, before it could ever even get into like have a decent sized economy.
Yeah.
Benny, what do you think about gold?
Okay, so I have a theory as to why gold failed as a world reserve currency, and part of it was the fact that it was not easily auditable and people became complacent. And so you got to a point where people were like, and also because it's not easily transportable, right? And it might be harder to secure. And so you got to a point where people were like, okay, I'll just leave my gold with a third party. I'm going to trust that person to hold it. And then people got into the habit of accepting, this certificate says I own the gold and I'll just trade the certificate. And so once you've placed that trust on a centralized third party, that inevitably is going to exploit it, and you get fractional reserve. And the certificate is good until it's not, right? And so with Bitcoin, you always have that easy auditability, at least like from a base layer perspective of, okay, there's only 21 million, but all of these institutions are claiming there's 40 million between them. That triggers a bank run, and then you can demand immediate delivery, if you need it, and trigger that bank run. And so there's this inherent risk with I'm sure somebody will attempt to do fractional reserve, but there's an inherent risk to it because there's no lender of last resort anymore. You can't go to the central bank and say, we did something stupid, can you print some more Bitcoin and bail us out? It's not going to happen. And so I think that one of the main reasons that the gold standard failed, unfortunately, is because of these factors, is because that people, they got complacent, which I'm hoping doesn't happen too much with Bitcoin. But even if people do get complacent, at least you can real-time audit and see what's there, and not have the wool pulled over your eyes by these institutions that are holding money for other people. So I think Bitcoin kind of gets rid of those factors that cause the gold standard to fail, or that contributed to it at least.
You can also send it anywhere around the world in 2 seconds, and then gold. You drop that gold bag, as they drop gold. Now, I do want to, you're saying it's auditable. Obviously, I love that about Bitcoin. But people have been talking about it, that aspect of it. But how about if privacy was built into the base layer? Do you think privacy should be built in the base layer or a second layer?
See, this is where I was very conflicted because, as soon as you get the obfuscation of what's there on the base layer, then you lose that auditability. And I think that privacy is going to be our next version of this scaling civil war. Honestly, I think that's the writing seems to be on the wall that right now it's all about privacy, and it is very important, obviously. But the more I look at it, the more I lean towards let's do that on secondary and tertiary layers, because you don't want to lose that easy auditability of the base layer. You can, it could be very difficult to ensure that there are only 21 million coins. Maybe there's unknown inflation that we're not aware of if we stop being able to see that. So I do lean towards secondary layers. I do lean towards things like better wallets, things like Wasabi, things like what Samurai is doing with Whirlpool, and just other ways of maintaining your privacy. So how will it play out? I'm not sure, but personally, I worry about losing that kind of transparency on the base layer.
All right, Gigi, I want to hear your thoughts on privacy and what Benny just said.
Yeah, so I'm with Ben there, I think. I mean, you have to make certain trade-offs, and as we have seen with other coins, with Zcash, for example, if you don't have the very easy auditability on the base chain, then bad things can happen, and they had an inflation bug, and it's, that would be horrible, because the whole value proposition of Bitcoin relies on it not being inflated. And I think Bitcoin privacy, in a way, is fine as it is, as long as everyone uses proper digital hygiene. And I really try to push this narrative of digital hygiene. And I plan to write on that in the future as well, because I think everyone kind of knows nowadays, at least if you're like 50% of the time in cyberspace, then you kind of know that you don't use the same password 123 for every service all the time. And people,
wait, you guys don't use password 123?
Shit! Now I said it out loud, didn't I? Yeah, and people kind of go in this direction where they tend to have better passwords and maybe even use password managers, and even big companies like Apple move towards the direction of privacy and generating new identities and new email addresses for every service, and so on and so forth. And I think part of that should also be just mixing your coins, use privacy technology, block ads, block tracking, block whatever you can. Don't sell your soul just so that ads follow you around the internet and people are better able to sell you stuff that you actually don't want. I mean, and I'm hopeful. And as Ben said, I think that the base layer is fine as it is, and privacy, we already have really good privacy solutions, like Whirlpool and Wasabi. Whirlpool of Samurai is really good, and the Wasabi CoinJoin is excellent as well. It breaks every known analysis that we know currently, and you can just use it by default. Just make a habit out of it, CoinJoining your coins like once a week or something, or whenever you hit an on-ramp and you buy coins, then just take care of your UTXOs, go through Wasabi. And on Lightning, I think privacy guarantees will be way higher. So as long as people are still out there that are building services that don't rely on KYC and other things, I think we're good. And on Lightning, we should be able to build a closed loop economy that is privacy aware.
I got to say, digital hygiene, pound that like button. All right, Steve, you got to tell us about privacy.
Would you say me? Yeah. I'm like, I probably am. I'm definitely not an expert on like UTXO privacy and that kind of thing. I'm more concerned about like mining privacy, mining anonymity, or at least I like to explore that subject matter, just because, at the end of the day, mining is what keeps the network running, and mining is the mechanism for censorship. So I mean, if and Eric Voskuil talks a lot about it, but like if the network is censored by the state, like if the state bans Bitcoin or blacklists certain transactions, or takes over 50% of the hash power, it's pretty critical that miners can still mine anonymously. That it's hard to do that at an industrial scale, because it's hard to hide like an industrial scale farm. But at the end of the day, that's what Bitcoin security relies on, is mining anonymity. So like when it comes to protocol changes such as like block size increases and that kind of thing, which increases the resource cost to run a node and a mining node, that usually I'm not really interested in that because it can impact mining anonymity. So yeah, I mean, that's basically what you guys were talking about with like coin joins and stuff. I haven't actually used Wasabi yet, or I do have Samurai Wallet, but I haven't used their Whirlpool. I probably should start, but I mean, I think like those technologies just show that like on-chain analysis is, I don't know, it's probably not very. I don't know if that kind of thing could be upheld in the court. Like it seems like it's flawed. Like on-chain analysis is flawed, and these systems make it that way. So, but yeah, I mean, mixing and all that stuff is probably something we should be doing more often.
All right, you're talking about good segue here into Bitcoin mining because you know a lot about that, and you're doing something revolutionary up there in Alberta. And a lot of people out there, when they try to FUD on Bitcoin, they say it's going to cause a global warming and all this nonsense. And so tell us what you do up there.
Yeah, oh man, the energy waste FUD is like the worst. Like some of the like weakest FUD around Bitcoin out there. But yeah, what we do, I mean, like my background's oil and gas. That's all I've done for my career. Engineer, I just worked in oil field production facilities and that kind of thing. So I mean, I was pretty late to the game and learning about Bitcoin like in 2016. But I mean, immediately it made complete sense to me that, well, these machines, these ASICs, consume all this energy, get paid for it, and here we have this huge energy waste problem in the oil industry, and that's primarily I'm talking about like stranded gas, like vented gas and flared gas. So yeah, I mean, I just started a company, Upstream Data, and we build data centers that mine Bitcoin off that energy, basically. So it's pretty simple. Like it's we take a genset, plumb it into the gas line, generate power, distribute it to Bitcoin ASICs. Pretty basic stuff, actually. It's not rocket science, but I was surprised to see when I started that I hadn't found anybody talking about it. And I mean, especially with Bitcoin miners, like everyone's chasing cheap energy. Seemed like everyone's focused on like curtailment in renewables, which is obviously a good application for miners. And the biggest curtailment problem is like the wasted water that just not wasted, but flows down the river and is bypassing the hydro dams just because there's no demand for it. So Bitcoin miners just go in and eat that up. So I think I was one of the first people to do it in oil field, and it's been a fun challenge so far.
Hey, Steve,
Yeah.
I know some people outside of Alberta, they're just not familiar with what the deal is with stranded energy when you say that, like when it comes to like natural gas and why it's stranded and why you can't just, ship it or whatever. And I know we talked a bit about like methane venting and stuff like that, and like carbon credits and can you just touch a little bit about like why the energy is stranded and why it doesn't make sense to use it as is?
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to first and foremost gas price. So in Texas right now, and actually in parts of Alberta, where they're mainly in these areas where they're using these newer completions technologies like fracking. They go in these tight oil reservoirs, frack it. They make a ton of gas with the oil. Okay, so every time you produce oil, you're producing gas with it as a byproduct, like it's in solution, right? So with all this new technology accessing this unconventional oil, especially in these areas like the Permian, where they're going really strong down there, the gas prices have actually gone negative. So the producer has to pay someone to take their gas away. They're not even getting paid for their gas. So imagine if you're a producer and you're producing oil and you got this byproduct that is negative value, and you're looking at your prospect is to build a pipeline to you're paying for the pipeline to get someone else to pay someone else to take it. It makes no sense. So a lot of these guys will just flare it. Flaring it obviously is just burning it out of a stack, right? As we've all seen. But aside from flaring, there's also venting. Venting is much more tightly regulated, and you don't see vent volumes as high as flare volumes because usually when you start to vent a lot of gas, you're supposed to burn it. But venting is effectively, it's happening all over Alberta. Basically every oil and gas facility has some amount of vent rate. If it's only a trickle coming out of like instrumentation, or if it's a lot coming straight out of a pipe. I wrote a little blog post. I have a video showing you what venting is if you just go on the website. So venting is what like I primarily target, and that's because it is it's a liability basically. If you're already flaring gas, then you don't have to do anything else. You're already disposing of it properly. But when you're venting, usually there's regulatory incentives or penalties that come into place over that. So in Alberta, in particular, and Saskatchewan, because I service both provinces, there's significant penalties if you're venting over a certain amount, and it's only getting worse. And then there's the whole carbon tax aspect, because venting gas is much worse than flaring in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. So there's a higher carbon penalty on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully I explained that, but it comes down to the fact that the gas is worthless, so no one has any incentive to conserve it, to like send it to the market. But if you take that gas, generate electricity, and mine Bitcoin, Bitcoin is like an arbitrage mechanism, right, for energy. It just gives all energy the same value, right? Yeah. So the value you get from that gas is anywhere between 10 and 20x what you would selling it down a pipeline. So that's what the business model. I generate Bitcoin for the producers, basically.
This guy,
my dog is going crazy.
He's happy because he wants more Bitcoin. Pound that like button. You're in motion. That you came up with this idea. Nobody else came up with this darn idea. This is great. And no, it's not destroying. You're saving the environment here. By the way, Gigi, do you have any questions for Steve or anything like that? I didn't want to leave you out.
I just wondered, when did you start with that? Like, how long are you doing this now?
I had the concept in, it was sort of like late summer 2016. That was like right when I learned about Bitcoin, but I got the first data center running, like actually up and running and mining in late September 2017. Took me about, I got serious about it in the start of 2017, then I designed it and built it and had it running. It took a bit, like just to get a producer to get on board with Bitcoin mining, because some of the reactions I get when I talk to these guys, like I was out installing a skid on I won't name the producer, pretty big producer site. They're on board, like their management's on board, but their field guys was like, he came up to me and he's like, what'd he say? He said, I know this is a Bitcoin mining data center. Explain to me in 2 minutes why this isn't a big scam. I'm sure you guys talk to people that have this preconception about Bitcoin. They weren't given the right information, and then now they just think it's like we're just a bunch of like tulip, bubble guys. Like just
yeah, sure.
So
I think that's perfectly understandable. Especially if you're more down to earth guy, and a field technician at an oil field or a gas site, then it's perfectly understandable. All of this is kind of hard to understand especially if you're not in tech and have no background in Austrian economics.
Oh yeah, no. And earlier, we were talking about inflation and dilution of fiat currency. Like, one of the things I said to him was like, I can't really tell you why you should value it, but I value it because I don't like the fact that my Canadian dollars are being diluted and the people that are diluting it aren't working for it. And he just stared at me blankly. Like he has no problem. He had no problem with inflation, right? Like it's just, it's just part of money. It's like, no, it's not.
I think a lot of people don't really grasp it and don't really understand it or believe it. Like I talk to quote unquote regular people pretty much all the time because they ask me what I do, and I'm like, I'm basically into privacy and security stuff and in this thing called Bitcoin, and most of them now have heard of it. But if you just tell them that this thing, it works a little bit differently, and you can't print money like the governments do, and they're like, what, the governments can print money? So it's really funny to see how deep the financial ignorance goes sometimes. And
I'll be right back. I'm just gonna get my dog out of here.
Yeah, sure.
All right. The dog has been, everyone's pounding that like button for the dog. I got some more questions for Steve too. It's just amazing what you're doing over there. Now, Gigi, you said you've I don't know if you want to. You're in Europe somewhere, let's say, right? That's
Yeah.
where you're. I mean, I don't know if you can say where you are. I don't know if you're down with that, but I mean, what reaction have you been? Has there been growing Bitcoin interest? Have you noticed anything lately with this price spike?
I haven't noticed anything really. Like in my normal group of friends or in the outside Bitcoin world, it's still kind of dead. Nobody really talks about it. Like there's no hype by regular people as far as I can tell. But I think it's different from region to region. I've also read online that in China, for example, it's different right now and so on. So,
have there in your in the native language of your newspapers, have there been any articles pumping it up lately? Has it been in the news at all?
I actually don't know because I stopped reading the news a while ago.
That like button. That is awesome. Yeah, who cares what's going on there? All right, I like that. I tell people too, don't pay attention to this politics.
Don't you feel happier now? Not reading that crap.
Oh man, yeah. I actually like my life improved substantially over the last couple of years, and I stopped reading the news. I stopped watching TV like a very long time ago. I deleted Facebook. I deleted Coinbase. I fell into the Bitcoin rabbit hole. So life is great, man. I highly recommend it to everyone.
You are living the life. Well, I want to ask Steve again. So these producers, do they contact you, or do you have to go contact them?
More and more, I'm getting more interest. So when I started, I started in the run up of 2017, like when I first started actually mining. So it was definitely interest at that point, but then when it crashed and it was going down, and we basically had most all of 2018 was a bear market. Definitely, I noticed the inquiries dropped with the price, and the people being aware of Bitcoin. That combined with the fact that Canada has been going through the worst bear market in oil in its history, so that at least local producers just don't have a lot of capital to spare on conservation solutions. Like they're just trying to keep the ship afloat. So those were the two challenges I had in 2018. But now there's a bit of a more optimism in Canadian oil. There's a bit more development going on, a bit more capital. And then even just recently with the Bitcoin price pumping, it's crazy how many more in mail I get. So
okay, so they are paying. At least some of them are they're waking up to the price. I want, since you are a Bitcoin miner, do you prepare? How do you prepare for the halving? Are you going to stash some Bitcoin away so you can sell it afterwards, or because there's all these theories on what miners do, and I'm going to ask everybody about the halving after this, but I wanted to hear your perspective on the halving.
I don't even think about it. So I wasn't mining during the last halving, so that is one thing. But honestly, at the end of the day, if difficulty is to the point and the price is to the point where, let's say, I'm not making money, I would just shut machines down. Luckily, I'm in a position where a lot of the energy I get is actually free, so I'm not really worried about it. My capital costs can be a bit higher than your average miner who's just plugging into a data center, but the operating cost is extremely low. So the people that are going to be hurt are the people with the 8.76 cents, which is some people think that's low, but I don't think it's low enough. They're going to be the ones having to shut the machines in. So I'll just keep mining. It'll be all good.
All right.
Don't worry about it.
Gigi, I'd like to hear that. Gigi, what's your Austrian economics perspective on this upcoming halving? Has the halving hype started? Do people even know about it in our space?
I just want to point out that free energy and using it for mining is awesome. That's hard to beat.
Yeah,
that's really great.
Don't get me wrong; it's not like everything's free.
Sure.
Engines and stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, I challenged someone on Twitter not too long ago to do the thought experiment. What if energy was free for everyone? What would happen to Bitcoin mining? So it's a funny thing to think about. But in regards to the halving, yeah, I don't know. Some people say people are more aware of the halvings now, so it's kind of priced in, and some people try to explain this micro bubble in a way as front running the halving. I'm not sure. I think I have no idea what the price will do. I mean, coming back to the fundamentals, the only thing that can change is the price. And yeah, as Steve said, the miners that aren't profitable will have to shut down. And still, I mean, mining, the hash rate is at an all-time high right now. So I don't see it really dropping or stopping anytime soon. I think everything will kind of go up, and the halving will, catapult Bitcoin back to global consciousness.
I think some of the miners that are like locked into contracts, or at least if I recall looking at the hash rate versus price chart for the last halving, I think like some of the hash rate dropped before the halving, like anticipating it, even though it shouldn't have been unprofitable. So that'll be interesting to watch, like if hash rate tries to anticipate, what's going to happen.
Benny, is the halving priced in? Your thoughts on the halving?
I think people always think the halving is priced in, but I don't think so, because you don't actually really feel the pinch of the scarcity until like well after the halving. Because I mean, when you think about it, like at the exact moment of the halving, all Bitcoin that already exists is still out there. And so people that are wanting to trade and sell are already still trading and selling. And it's just that every 10 minutes, the additional coins being created. So like in next year, 6.25 coins every 10 minutes will no longer be on the table, which initially isn't much, but you wait a few months, you wait a year, and then people really feel that pinch, because right now the market is willing to absorb all of those new coins, 12.5 coins every 10 minutes at its current price. And so I think that it's going to, I wouldn't be surprised to see things go crazy. I was surprised this year. I honestly thought it was going to be pretty boring. I thought it was going to be like a repeat of like 2015, where it was a lot of sideways nothingness, before we started to see some positivity again. And man, was I blown away by the first half of 2019. So really, I don't really know what to expect leading up to the halving. I don't think the halving itself right at that time will do much. But I think obviously long term afterwards, in the months and maybe year following it, we're going to start to see another round of FOMO as people realize it's really tough to get their hands on it.
I think I don't think I've mentioned this on my show many times. I don't think it's priced in at all, and I don't, because most people in the market have no idea what it is. The media has started mentioning it though last few weeks, I guess, as we've had this price spike. So I love the halving hype. I love when people start to talk about it, because it will create FOMO, and it will just create awareness, and that this thing is scarce and it's going to become scarcer, and it'll get the right people into the space.
I hope there's another segment on the news for next halving. I remember one last year, or sorry, not last year, but like in 2016 when the halving was happening, and people were getting excited about it, and it got mentioned in the news, and the anchor was interviewing somebody, and he just couldn't grasp it, and he said something like, he compared it to potato chips. He's like, it's like I have a potato chip and now I have 2 potato chips. It's stupid. Why is it worth more? Like, it was.
No, you have half a potato chip, dude.
Yeah. He just did not get it, and it was so hilarious to watch. But if anybody watching this has that clip, please tweet it to me so I can share it again for next year.
Yes, potato chip, man. I want to see. And again, their Twitters are linked below. I am TechBalt, TechBalt on Twitter. I've been tweeting out all sorts of flashback videos of mine from 2013, 14, and 15, when Bitcoin was a lot cheaper in terms of fiat. And you can see I said the same things then that I'm still saying today. Strong hand, people. Keep that strong hand. Now I want to go back to Steve for a second. You have a new product that's coming out, or tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, I just sent some info out today. I've been trying to get this information released for a while. I haven't put it on the website yet, but I will pretty quick. So I mean, like, I started with these Well, I have a new brand now. It's actually on my hat, like Ohm data centers. But the first thing I started with was sort of like a combo package, like a genset data center all in one. And I find like a lot of oil companies, even though they have a lot of money, they're very, like I said, cautious on where they invest. So I wanted to create something a little smaller, more bite-sized, to get their feet wet, just to dip their toes, get them into Bitcoin mining, let them see how reliable a Bitcoin mining data center is, how much money it makes based off their gas, which is basically worthless. So this is I don't have anything I can show you right here, but it'll be up shortly. And if you follow me on Twitter, you'll see it shortly. But it's basically a little 4-foot cube, steel cube. It's as minimalist as a Bitcoin mine as you can get. Like there's one fan on one end, an intake with door with a filter on the other, and a 50 kilowatt worth of ASICs that you can pack in. So this thing is like a Lego block. You can just stack it, like build a wall out of it. So if you have a facility with a lot of gas, you can just take the same data center, get a bunch of them, stack them. They can all tether together, that kind of thing. Or if you just have like a small application with a small amount of vent gas, just feed that into one of the gen sets, power this little block, call it a mini. It's a Ohm mini 50 kilowatt data center.
Awesome. This is we're on the cutting edge here, people. I love to hear about this new stuff. And again, people say that Bitcoin's going to hurt the environment. You're saving the environment with Bitcoin here. You're making these oil guys cleaner. This is good stuff. I love it. All right. So please, guys, if you're interested in that stuff, if you're some oil producer somewhere, contact him. It's linked to below. Well, we're going to talk about altcoins in a second. I did want to read this Gigi quote here. Core ideas are codified in Bitcoin's consensus rules. Fixed supply, no central point of failure, no possibility of confiscation or censorship. Everything can be validated by everyone at all times. You put it in regular words for regular people there.
So, that wasn't me, actually. That was Hasu, who wrote a piece on unpacking Bitcoin's social contract, and I just stole word for word those 4 points from him, pretty much.
There's huge points there. I mean, you elaborate on it in detail. So,
again, shout out to him. He was very instrumental on getting this article right, and so I had his permission to steal, and he was somewhat of an editor for this piece. So,
talk about the aspect everything can be validated by everyone at all times.
We touched on that briefly before when we talked about gold and gold full nodes and so on. And I think the beautiful thing about Bitcoin is that you have the possibility to be completely self-sovereign if you want to. Like you can run your own full node, you can validate everything by yourself. Of course, you need to have peers, and you will need another node that sends you blocks that you can validate and verify. But still, you can mine yourself, you can run your own node, you can even, now run your own Lightning node, you can connect your mobile wallets to your own nodes. You can be completely self-sufficient in a way. And I think that's a very healthy direction also. If you look outside of Bitcoin, where things are moving towards, like you have a small box at home, like the small box you just described, but it's not burning up gas. It's sitting in your living room or something, and you have all your data on it, and you have your Bitcoin full node on it, and you run a Tor node, for example, on it, and so on and so forth. And I think, that's what makes this whole thing unique as well, because the thing is, Bitcoin is fine as it is now. And if you don't agree with a future change, then just don't upgrade. Nobody will force you to upgrade. You are the master, I mean, I don't have to tell you guys that, but you're the Bitcoin meister. So.
Well, I will say this about there are some altcoiners out there. They don't get they don't care about that everyone can run a node on Bitcoin. There's some out there that just think there only need to be a few nodes. BSV for interest. What are your thoughts on,
sure.
when you hear things like that?
I think we, you don't have to look too far back in human history. It's kind of true that nobody cares about these things like rights, for example, until they get exploited to no end, and you have some authoritarian rulers that just exploit people. And I think this is what is happening and will continue to happen on various altcoins. Like if you don't have the possibility to run your own node and validate everything by yourself and have a say in the network, then you're just a puppet, and some other puppet masters are in control, and they will do whatever they want to do. And we saw that in multiple networks already. So
yeah, you'll end up believing anything that master says. If he says he's the Messiah, you'll believe he's the Messiah. Anyway, so we're talking about altcoins here, and this recent jump in price in Bitcoin has increased the Bitcoin dominance. And again, it's a flawed metric in some ways, but in other ways it is not. The altcoiners out there this time around, I think this was unexpected. As Benny said, I think a lot of people just thought this Bitcoin would go sideways for a while, and all of a sudden we're having a 2017-like pump, and the altcoins aren't pumping. And in fact, they're getting rocked. And is this the end of the altcoins? Is the question. Now again, I think the bell has tolled for some of them. I really do. This was pretty surprising this time around. I think the top tier ones will come back if you consider there to be a top tier out there. I'll start with Benny on this because you had some thoughts.
Yeah. So I was a couple things. So again, to your point that market dominance is a flawed metric. It is a flawed metric in that, again, if somebody creates a coin and I create 1 billion of those coins, and then I manage to sell 10 of them at $1 each, then by definition, my coin now has $1 billion market cap, which is ridiculous. So like that way that we measure it is just, it doesn't make sense. And so when you have anybody can create an altcoin, and if you sell a few of them, and your market cap is, it doesn't track very well with how things actually work. And so you get things like Ripple, they're holding 60%, and they've kind of restricted supply. Not only that, but a bunch of the Ripple out there is there's legal things in place so that people can't just dump their Ripple like some of the the founders, and like Jed McCaleb has a deal with them where he's only allowed to dump a certain amount over a certain period of time. So you get these pressures where the market cap doesn't really make sense. That being said, I forget who tweeted it. I wish I could remember, but a reference to when people started pointing at market cap and saying, or market dominance, and pointing to Bitcoin saying, see, it goes down. But I mean, Bitcoin's dominance back in the day, say a few years ago, maybe like 2016, 2015, 2014, actually probably 2014, Bitcoin's dominance was well above 80%. It was super high. But at the same time, there's like 12 altcoins then. Now there's like 4,000 and something altcoins, and Bitcoin dominance is still like 62%. That's insane. Like it just shows how many of those coins are popping up and are completely worthless. And it's funny because people refer to Bitcoin's market dominance. When's the last time you heard somebody talk about Ethereum's market dominance or Bcash's market dominance and tracked it over a period of time? Because I guarantee, other than like the initial spike, dominance is this for like all of the trash on CoinMarketCap.
Actually, the last time people really talking about Ethereum dominance was at the height of the pre-Bcash FUD. It was in 2017 when they were talking the scaling debate, and King of the Trolls was threatening to fork off Bitcoin, and Ethereum was really pumping, and it was definitely the summer or the spring of 2017, and they thought the flippening or whatever. That last time. that was the last time that was really talked about. And
that was also the all-time high of Ethereum in Bitcoin value, and it's never been even close to that again.
No, it has not. It was 15% of a Bitcoin. It spiked to 15% of a Bitcoin, and that's how you should know your wealth, people, in Bitcoin.
Imagine selling a bunch of your Bitcoin for 0.15 Bitcoin for an ETH. Can you imagine? Oh my God.
People did it. And then it was at 10% for quite some time. It was at 10. So there were people who were buying Ethereum, and again, they had their fun and everything, and it's the free market. But so this time around, I said we're giving some people flashbacks they don't even know about because they weren't around, so I guess it wasn't a flashback. But that some of these coins were worth in Bitcoin quite a lot, and now it is after this spike we just had. Bcash is under 4% now. Bcash was once over 20%.
Yeah.
So Benny, the bottom, and this is what I'm going to ask the other guys too. Will they? Is this the end, or will we see
I think it's going to be a gradual thing. There will be pumps, but the problem is because people are mostly not tracking their wealth in Bitcoin, they don't realize the losses that they're actually enduring. One of the references that I love to point back to is Litecoin, and so people in, let's say, the end of 2017, there's a massive pump on Litecoin and went to like $300 and something, and people were like, wow, all-time high for Litecoin. But was it? Because it was not. It was all-time high in dollars, sure. When you're comparing digital assets to fiat, at least everything looks good compared to fiat eventually. But if you actually looked at the value of Litecoin versus Bitcoin, the pump in 2013 was actually twice as high. So when Litecoin got to like whatever it was, $40 or something, it was like almost 5% of a Bitcoin. When Litecoin got to like $350, it was like 2.5% of a Bitcoin. And even with the craziness of earlier this year, it didn't even quite make 2% of a Bitcoin, and now it's at like 1% of a Bitcoin. So it's like this, sure, you see spikes, but who is timing those? Nobody's really timing those unless you're incredibly lucky. And the rest of the time, you're just losing sats. And so I think this is going to be, and not only that, but people are getting tricked by, imagine being a person who dumped all your Bitcoin because you thought Bcash was the real Bitcoin, and then dumping all your Bcash because you thought BSV was the real Bcash, and then going, oh no, actually Bcash is the real Bcash, and going back and dumping your BSV. Like, imagine that progression and how angry and broken inside you must be. Like, oh my God.
There are people who did that, went from, I can't believe that such people exist. I know of, I'm not going to name his name, who went from Bitcoin to Bcash to BSV. It's absolutely ridiculous. Steve, what are your thoughts on the altcoins? Are they dead?
I won't say they're dead. I think, and I don't think they'll ever die. I think there'll always be meme coins. I think like I think what they need right now is Bitcoin to pump. That's their only chance. I think if I'm not really in the bull market mode yet. I know a lot of people are. I think we're in like a micro bubble, and we're going to continue maybe going sideways for a bit. And if I'm right, I think these altcoins are going to see much more red. I don't think they have any chance of pumping unless Bitcoin is getting a lot of interest. We've talked about Ethereum's value. I like to mock Ethereum all the time, but it's sort of been holding this value at like 2.6% of a Bitcoin, or 0.026 whatever ratio, and like you can see this resistance wall, and if it drops through that, you're going to see like a bloodbath in altcoins, because so many of these altcoins are tied to the success of Ethereum. And so I'm not very optimistic on, I've never been optimistic on shit coins, swearing altcoins, but I don't see much of a future, but I do think they're going to continue to exist, especially like the bigger ones like Litecoin. Litecoin does, like, you can say what you want about it, but it has a bit of an economy under it. And so there's always going to be this meme coin around Litecoin probably. I don't think it's useful, but
have you mined anything but Bitcoin? Have you mined Litecoin at all, or?
Actually, no. I've only mined Bitcoin, and I only intend to mine Bitcoin. But there's besides being like a Bitcoiner, there's actually other reasons. Bitcoin ASICs are the most power dense ASICs. Like you get the most kilowatt, load out of a Bitcoin ASIC. So when I'm building these data centers, I need power density because I'm not in a huge warehouse where I can put this GPU rack like that is 6 times more volume, like space, as a Bitcoin ASIC for the same power load. So there's a fundamental reason why I just don't mind that crap. But aside from that, I'm only really interested in Bitcoin because, in my mind, Bitcoin needs to succeed. Altcoins cannot succeed if Bitcoin fails. So it's just not really worth my time.
Gigi, your thoughts on altcoin?
Yeah, well, I don't think they are going away anytime soon. First of all, there are way too many. Second of all, it's really, really hard to kill blockchains in general. Like if there are some nodes still running and they are not getting attacked all the time, then they just won't go away. But I just also want to point out that it is my strong belief that we are still kind of living in peacetime. And I wonder why that is, because we've not seen too many 51% attacks and double spend attacks on other chains. Like we have something like NiceHash and other ways to rent hash power quite efficiently and cheaply. And I think you could just, target some exchanges, and this is not advice, by the way, it's just a thought experiment, and just double spend the shit out of some of those shitcoins that have some value. And I just wonder why it's not happening yet. I think simply mining is just more profitable, but if shit hits the fan in a way, or if it switches from peacetime to wartime, then that's something I think we could see happen. Like if people are ideologically motivated to attack other chains, then that's definitely something that could happen. And as Steve pointed out, I don't have any interest in altcoins whatsoever, because for the same reason, I think we need Bitcoin to succeed, and Bitcoin has the greatest chance of surviving and actually changing something in the financial world. And I think something approximating a great filter event, like Brandon Quidden calls it, will appear, and most of the altcoins will kind of fall to the wayside. And I hope that Bitcoin will survive this.
Great filter event. You're interested in space and astronomy, and we hear that.
Yeah,
term.
it's a borrowed term. Like it comes from this area. Like why are there no aliens that we can see, at least? And maybe in the future we will look back and are like, okay, why are there no altcoins that we can see?
I love the great filter theory. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, there might be some huge event that we cannot even fathom right now that'll get rid of altcoins. Very interesting. I mean, but people try to explain why don't we see any aliens? Well, maybe there's some big event that's coming up for humanity that we can't even picture that'll get rid of us. God forbid. God forbid. All right.
What's for sure though, to round this up, again, I think altcoins are kind of here to stay, but what I'm certain about is that scams are here to stay. And most of the altcoins and most of the ICOs were just outright scams. I mean, there were some projects that really thought that they were doing something useful, but like 99.9% of the coins listed on CoinMarketCap are simply scams. And this won't go away. Like we've seen now, from ICOs going to initial exchange offerings like IEOs, and I have no idea what the scammers will come up with, but I'm afraid it will get even worse in the next hype cycle.
I think it'll involve switching out the middle letter again.
Yeah.
Whatever. Oh,
good point. Because I mean, there's no difference between ICO and IEO, except I think it's ridiculous. I always say EIEIO, but it's silly. But I mean, people fall for it. People are like, yeah, man, I'm going to get in the hottest IEO now. I mean, like,
yeah, get rich quick.
Soon it'll just be IOU.
Tell that like, but I love it. All right. There was a question for Steve here. Look into a possible mining operation with the now defunct Philadelphia Energy Solutions facility. They need money and are looking for options to unload this 1,400-acre plant. Have you heard anything about that, Steve? I mean, you're in the energy field. That's that's really taking it to another level there, because I guess they're not producing a darn thing. It's just going to be a big empty facility. That would be
one thing I'll recommend, like this guy's talking about, is some facility. Sounds like maybe it's for sale or like they're trying to fill it up. Like I would never invest in a stationary, like a brick and mortar Bitcoin farm. There's a lot of reasons why, but I mean, you see like, I don't know, where was it, in Wenatchee, where was that, Washington or something? There's several places now, like Quebec, where like the utilities commission, like whoever's regulating the utilities, says, okay, jack the Bitcoin miner prices, like they're overloading the network. The last place you want to be is stuck in a brick and mortar facility. So that's why, if that guy's just asking for advice on like if he should buy that or something, I would say no. Just do portable data centers. If someone tries to jack your power, get out. Like, yeah.
I'll always be in motion. Yeah, don't tie yourself down. I like that. That's the way I live my life. If things got bad for me in the United States, I would just move to another country. I mean, you got to be able to just don't plant yourself in place.
Yeah, a Bitcoin miner, you shouldn't be paying lease costs, like land costs. Like that's ridiculous.
All right, now let's Benny, tell us what happened in San Francisco over the last few days.
San Francisco was awesome. I've got to tip my imaginary hat to the Bitcoin 2019 guys. That was a solid time. The quality of people at the event were just amazing. We got to have
hard.
Oh man, yeah. Yeah, it was great. It was really cool. I got to meet a lot of people that I hadn't met before. So I was down with Francis Pouliot. Myself and him were there, I guess representing Bull Bitcoin. Yeah, he did a panel on scaling with Dan Held and Aaron Van Weerdum and Eric Lombroso. And then there was lots of great talks. There was Edward Snowden. He was talking on privacy. That was amazing. Also, he dropped the bomb at the end of his like mic drop moment at the end of his talk, was that the servers that he had to buy in order to leak the information on basically all of the surveillance being done by the NSA, those servers were paid for with Bitcoin. So yeah, it was really cool, and people got pretty excited about that. Not to mention the fact that the price was skyrocketing during the event just kind of added to the euphoria. And yeah, it was just an all around pretty great event. And the few kind of scammier elements that kind of showed up did not land well. So like there's the guy up there from Celsius Network, and he was trying, I don't know, there's a token involved. So anyways, people were not having it, and like all his jokes were just falling flat, and you could tell he was like visibly uncomfortable as he was trying to get through his presentation. It was interesting watching the post-mortem on SegWit2x with Eric Lombroso and Eric Voorhees, and it was it was interesting to watch Eric Voorhees. You know, he got pretty close to saying, okay, we were wrong, but not entirely. But he did kind of allude to, so near the end of the talk, you know, what would you do differently? And he kind of said, like, listen, like, as it got close to the end, the 2x part of SegWit2x was never intended to be a chain split. And so as we came to the realization that there was so much pushback that it was literally going to cause a chain split, that's when we realized we couldn't go through with it. And that was the email that they sent out to call it off like 24 hours prior. Yeah, so there was a lot of interesting stuff. There's great people that I got a book. There's a fiction book on Satoshis Fortune that I picked up. That was really good. They were selling ledgers for $15 a pop. And yeah, I know. I grabbed 5.
Who was selling them? I mean,
the conference, they literally had stacks of them. Not only that, but if you went to like the vendor booths and just like chatted to them, they'd give you a little ticket. And if you got 3 tickets on the first day, just going to 3 booths to chat to people, that would get you a free ledger. And so there were guys running around with like a pocket full of tickets, getting like 10 ledgers at a time. It was unreal. Yeah.
Do you remember the name of the book? Like, I'd be interested in getting the fiction book.
Yeah, the book is called Satoshi's Fortune.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's literally just like a fiction book around. There's a character that seems to be like the equivalent of Andreas Antonopoulos, but it's all very like, oh, we're trying to outrun the cabal and they're trying to come down on us in the early days of Bitcoin. And like it's it's meant to be like an entertainment kind of fun book of like people hiding from big governments that's trying to shut them down. So it's fun so far.
Cool.
Well, it sounds like a great time if they're giving away free ledgers. I like to. Hey guys, remember, store your bit, control your own private key, treasure, ledger, whatever you got to put it on.
Cold card wallet.
Yeah, that of course.
Canada,
of course. We were hanging with him a year ago now, or a little. Anyway, so let's. We're at the end of the show. I want everyone to give. I think Ben, do you have any? Since you're just speaking now, any other conclusionary remarks? Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, it's the year is looking good. I'm very excited about everything that's happening. Of the things that we talked about, I continue to urge people to really look into privacy when it comes to Bitcoin, because you most need it when it's too late, and so it's better to jump on that train early. So, I mean, if you're on your desktop, just go and download Wasabi Wallet and just start learning a little bit, or go get Samurai Wallet if you're on Android and start playing with Whirlpool. It might be a little bit daunting at first to understand what you're seeing, but putting in that time will be well worth it, and you'll be well ahead of the game in comparison to most people in Bitcoin right now. All
right, very good advice. We'll go to Gigi for give us some lessons here, Gigi. Anything you want to say? Anything you want to say? It's your floor.
All right. Lesson 19, privacy is not dead. So amen to what Ben just said. Take care of your privacy. Take care of your UTXOs and your Bitcoins. Like, mix often and just do proper digital hygiene. I urge everyone as well to do that. Like, it's more important than you might imagine.
I love that term. Everyone's going to remember that now. Digital hygiene. Gigi's 21 lessons. It's linked to below. And what is your next article you said that's coming out? And everything about it is linked to below. You got to follow him. But what's the next you're working on?
I can't tell you that yet. Not because I don't know, but because I have like 3 or 4 things that I'm working on concurrently, and I don't know which one will be done first.
Okay, but there's so good. There'll be 3 or 4 new things coming relatively soon. So earlier in the show, you did say something. There was an allusion to something. So someone review the tape, people. He dropped something in there. Okay, and Steve talked about his new product. Steve talked about. I love this Bitcoin mining up there in Alberta. What are your conclusionary thoughts? Anything you want to add?
Keep stacking sats. If you want to do it through mining, mine's a good way. Just give me a shout. But the advice is, don't be afraid to spend some sats. Everyone loves the HODL meme, but when you spend your sats and consume it, you benefit. And the network benefits because you're distributing coins. So don't be afraid to spend some. There's a lot of great vendors out there, especially online, that are selling stuff for Bitcoin. Like I just bought a really nice, like that painting up there. That's from Crypto Graffiti. Yes. He does great work. Hal Finney up there. I just bought another one from him. Like, spend some sats, for God's sakes.
Spend it at people that will hold the Bitcoin as well, like that won't dump it and then replenish.
Someone will eventually hold it.
That's a very important point Benny just said there, actually. Now, again, I can't that Steve gave his opinion. Mine's a little different there, but if you're going to spend, I can't spend. I can't do it. I can't. My hands.
Spend them all. Don't spend them all. Just enjoy it.
Wrong. But what Benny said though is, definitely spend it at a dude. Don't spend it with Peter Schiff. Peter Schiff accepts Bitcoin. He does, but he turns it into dollars right away because don't do something like that. If you don't have a strong enough hand and you need to buy something, buy it from someone who's got a real strong hand and is going to value his wealth in Bitcoin. Because again, some people, and this is, it's the free market. If people accept Bitcoin just because they want to turn into dollars, okay, that's great. But it's not great. But the best, they're the people who accept it because they really, again, when I offer my services to people, I accept Bitcoin. And I don't, and of course, I've never turned my Bitcoin into dollars. So with that, this has been a great, diverse panel here, all sorts of expertise. I loved it. I hope everybody loved it. Thank you, all the fans in the chat. You dudes were rocking. You were pounding that like button. Good work. Adam says Rico Coin Report. Good to see you, Rico Coin Report. Remember, everybody, every Friday is the This Week in Bitcoin show. Every other day of the week, we got shows here. Every day I do a new show. You better believe it. Saturday is the Beyond Bitcoin show, so I'll see you tomorrow night on this channel. Thanks again, guests. I'm Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, Disrupt Meister. Remember to subscribe to this channel, like this video, share this video. Of course, follow me on Twitter, TechBalt, TECHBALT, DisruptMeister.com. You get all these old videos of mine. I've done like 1,350 of them. Whoa. Pound that like button. Shabbat Shalom. See you guys tomorrow night. Bye-bye, everyone. Thanks. See ya.